So welcome everyone to another open session from another working group called BP Distribution. This working group has been inactive for a couple of months because discussions kind of stalled at some point. And now that we all know the things that happened a couple of weeks ago, and BP distribution and Wales votes is always a debate, a hot topic here. So, based on community feedback and requests, we decided to reopen this working group. eBay and me are going to take over this working group and to lead and to facilitate it. Remember that you all have access to the working documents and the materials that we've been working with the last couple of months. Some Notion documents, some blog posts. So everything obviously related to BP distribution. But the thing is that today we are resuming those discussions in order to obviously gather community sentiment, gather community feedback, and start working on concrete proposals, concrete governance proposals to address the BP distribution issue. So thanks everyone for being here. I think I'm going to try to reach out to some community members that might be interested on participating on this. But in the meanwhile, I'll pass it to eBay. That's going to lead this meeting.
Yeah, hi everyone. Happy to be here. As Fede said, I'll be the facilitator for this group and the grant restructuring as well. So, in case you didn't know me, just happy to meet you all. Basically, the meeting will go with writing on the mural post-it notes. So, basically, write it in whatever section you consider you want to: initiative, concerns, roadblocks, or drivers. And you can also interact with the notes. So I encourage you to do so, just to gather more sentiment over what we're writing. And after that, we'll just open the mic for a first round of speakers. And once everyone had the chance to talk, we'll go for a second round, just to avoid that back and forth and getting stuck in a single note or conversation. We'll share the summary and the recording after the meeting is over, and hopefully, as Fede said, we'll have consensus towards some proposals. This is not going to be the only meeting for this topic, since it's a pretty hot topic, let's say, but I think it's a great start. So, yeah. Does everyone have access to the mural during the meeting?
Okay. Chrono is writing something, but the rest of you, Reese, Lastrom, Jen, Ingester, Lorelike, Miss, do you have access? Jared, do you have access to the... Sorry, not Jared. Have you access to the mural board? Great. Lorelike is okay.
Yep. Seeing Fede, Lorelike.
Okay, no problem, Chrono. You can drop some comments here in the chat group, and I can add them as sticky notes in the mural board. No problem. The same with the rest of you. If you don't have access, or if you are with your phones or whatever, drop your comments there, and I'll add them into the board. Great. So let's start then sharing some thoughts about BP distribution. Remember that what we've been discussing in past sessions and in this Discord channel was about trying to balance the BP, obviously, trying to not to counter, but again to balance the Wales votes. And one of the options that, for example, that came and that some creators shared is about allocating BP to different content creators or to contributors to balance that BP. Other ideas are obviously about trying to gatekeeping the votings, trying to make the votings on grants or on different types of proposals different from only token weight. Some other concerns are basically around the BP that's allocated to districts. So these are some of the things that we've been discussing, and it will be great if you share again your concerns about this topic. We all know what's happening, what has been happening here in the DAO lately and from its beginning. But again, since we are resuming these discussions, will be great to start from zero and to gather all your insights and inputs to start shaping actual governance proposals and to gain support to approve them and to balance the VP. So again, we have the whales, we have the content creators, we have a lot of different actors, and there might be ways that we didn't find yet to allocate BP and to balance to achieve a better balance in the system.
Already seen some comments on the initiatives, but how about, yeah, just giving everyone the time, maybe a couple of minutes to write your thoughts.
So again, this discussion could be about different types of proposals and how to vote on them, or also about the whole system that I think is the main discussion here, right? Like the whole distribution right now, voting on grants or governance or linked wearables or points of interest, the whole system is compromised because of the current BP distribution. So it would be great to have a comprehensive approach for this. Obviously, identifying the different actors and possible solutions for this. Well, here, for example, I'm seeing something very interesting, like in the concerns, is that ideas have to be something whales won't hate enough to veto, and that's a key point because that's like the main problem, right? A lot of the things that are probably good for the platform, good for the ecosystem, might be blocked for because of whale boats, and this discussion itself could be a problem at the time of creating the policies, right? Here we have some initiatives.
A lot of concerns.
We're having
Naturally.
really great inputs here. So yeah, I'll leave it to you. Let's keep completing this, and then we'll talk about the different suggestions. Last time I tried to put some music, I messed up everything. I'm going to try again, but
I was actually going to ask you if, to put some
yeah,
music.
yeah, yeah. I'm going to try again. Last time I messed up everything, but it's worth it. Let's put some lo-fi. You know. Can you hear the music?
Yes.
Yep, pretty good.
Great.
La posta otra no hay, nigga. Solo el beat es lo-fi, nigga. También nací en el Southside, nigga. Y no me creo Tupac ni Biggie. Es lo viejo, es lo nuevo, es lo malo, es lo bueno. Esa media y esa pleno es lo que siembro en el terreno. No quedarse nunca más en la quietud. No bajar los brazos nunca es una virtud. Seguir siendo el mismo frente a la multitud. Para seguir subiendo hay que tener actitud. Y con
Okay, we're having a lot of responses, a lot of inputs. Don't know how much time we should wait Ibe, for.
So we didn't have the speaker list, but it's 2 more minutes, so we can start the presentations.
Okay, perfect.
as people keep writing, we can maybe start with presentations. Otherwise, it will take a lot of time.
Sorry, could you repeat? I didn't hear it well.
Was saying we can maybe start with presentations or opening the mic.
Oh yeah, sure,
Yeah.
sure, yeah. So as usual, now that we have, you can still keep completing this board. In the meanwhile, if any of you, I'll and Ibe and me will start reading some of the suggestions and concerns. In the meanwhile, if anyone wants to join the stage and share some thoughts or anything about this topic, please raise your hands and I'll invite you as speakers. So let's start then. Would you like to go, Ibe, or should I?
We can start on some, but if anyone wants to take the mic and just reference their card, that's okay as well. I don't know if someone really wants to talk right now, or otherwise we can read.
And remember that you can like drop your comments in the chat, and we can read them out loud and like discuss about them. You don't need to join the stage if you don't want to. Okay.
Yeah. Okay, maybe I can start with the initiatives one first, and we can just go one on one. Okay.
Sure.
First one says combine stake-weighted voting and a reputation-based system where each person gets one vote through two houses for varied decisions, similar to optimism. The reputation system will rely on the community contributions. For this, we can use Badges DAO. Badges DAO already has introduced new ones, such as for wearables and game creators, and conduct a test. We can conduct a test with a portion of the treasury funds, allowing badge holders to vote on grants.
Okay, this is a good one. I guess Lorelike added this, if I'm not wrong. But yeah, this is something that we've been discussing in strategic planning, and the ways that we could try to find different voting systems combined with the token weight one without like destroying or starting from scratch, but trying to combine them, right? So we have the bottom, the token weighted system. It's not currently working. At least there are some type of proposals, such as governance and grants, that are not having the outcomes that most of the community as individuals would prefer. So what this says is about trying to build a reputation system, something that we already discussed a couple of times, based on the budget system that the governance squad is developing. And for that, again, we need to identify different type of contributions to allocate those budgets, and that budget will be part of some kind of passport or citizenship or whatever, and will allow those community members with budgets, with specific budgets, to vote and to decide on specific issues. So let's say, for example, we have, let's say we want to vote on governance proposals, on binding governance proposals for updating smart contracts, and for that, you will need to have a certain type of badge. That will be an example. The same with grants. For voting on grants, maybe you should hold 2 or 3 different types of badges. So this is a really interesting approach that will allow to keep the current system and to combine it with another different one. But for that, again, we need to identify those those contributions and to allocate the badges and to gatekeep the different type of proposals. Any comments on this? the author of this suggestion or the other community members? Miss, you're writing something. Yep, that will be great. Kind of contributions that actually had an impact, right? That will be a good way to allocate and to recognize the contributions from community members, right? So let's say, for example, you request a feature through Kani and help the foundation to define the scope and to shape the scope of that feature. And if that feature actually is adopted by the foundation and implemented in the platform, that could be a contribution that could be recognized and could be something to take into account for voting in different type of proposals. So yes, it's a good idea to think on how those contributions in Kani could be like included in a potential combined system. Another comment from Risk. We just illuminate the real investor boys who invested in land and mana with that option. Any other comment here? If not, we can jump into another card. There are really good ones. Here we have another reputation one. Oh, we have really good options here. I don't know, eBay, which one do you want to pick?
Yeah,
But they are like really good options there.
yeah. I think we have a lot of the reputation-based system. Maybe we can discuss the one regarding delegation. Here, saying maybe just spice one. Maybe ask Esteban to revoke delegation to the 500k whales. Like
Okay, that's a thing too, because delegation has been in the center of these discussions lately too. So we have a couple of comments regarding delegation. Maybe we could like start talking about those, like removing delegation, one-on-one voting.
Sorry.
Yep.
Why don't we first group topics and then discuss topics instead of discussing each individual?
I'm doing that right now.
Yeah.
Like,
I think it will be easier.
Yeah, that's what I'm doing.
Yeah, there's delegation, there's reputation based, there is different like VP sources. There's something regarding, well, there are a couple of them that are isolated. There are some of them out
the delegation once into this column. So, yep, that's the idea.
Oh. Okay. Yeah, we have quadratic delegation, we have standard delegations.
Delegation. Quadratic 2, here it is.
Yeah, let's group instead.
Great. Okay. So in the meanwhile, while I keep grouping this, anyway, let me keep grouping this. Let's start with delegation then. So again, delegation has been a discussion, a problem, or maybe some people see it as a problem, because when some people, like the narrative is that when delegation started, these problems about BP not being balanced started too. And that comes with the whales vote, and that comes with Esteban's delegation to different community members. So let's start. Okay, let's start with like the basic, right? Why you think delegation should be removed as a whole? Like delegation as a thing, and the delegation from Esteban. Lastro, be my guest.
Hey, hopefully you can hear me.
Yep.
Maybe delegation being removed isn't the best option. It's just I want to always keep on the table for discussion because in real life we don't delegate our votes when we go to vote, at least in America, and it's been working out relatively successfully for the past 250 years. So trying to figure out solutions for a one-to-one vote. I just wanted to keep that on the table, and if it doesn't work in this Web3 world, that's okay. But I would hate to dismiss the opportunity for a one-person, one-vote solution. And I know it comes with a lot of different. Well, there's districts they wouldn't give it up, and all of this and that and the third. It's like, yes, but let's talk about what would that look like.
So this will be basically like nuking the current system and going for a one person, one vote, right? Like eliminating the token weighted PP and the assets PP. That's what you mean, or I'm exaggerating?
Apply it to real life. And I know Jared likes to troll and get into really semantic loops of discussion, but when we go to the ballot box, I'm not delegating somebody to go take my vote and vote on their behalf at the ballot box. So that's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about you casting your own vote based on you as a person. If we had Elon Musk who had votes based on their wearables, their clothes, their cars, their land, the amount of money they had, and we found a system to do that, I think it'll just always be rigged. Everything's always going to be rigged. I just wanted to keep the one vote solution on the table because just apply it in real life, quadratic, any of these other topics. Do they work out in the real life? I don't know. And again, ingester, I don't know. I mean, that's I don't know how multiple people create multiple walls. That's what I mean. Maybe it doesn't work out in this tech world, but I would hate to not try to find a solution where one person has one vote, not based on how much mana they have, not based on how much delegated VP they received, not based on how much land or wearables or mana, based on literally taking the time to participate and vote.
I mean, there should be like mechanisms for. Sorry, yeah, Gino, you were going to say something, probably the same that I was going to say.
No, I mean, I have a couple of ideas regarding that. First of all, in the history of like modern democracies, what we've been doing was delegating the decision making into others. I mean, when we go to the ballots to vote, we basically vote to give.
We delegate the decision making, but not the vote. You still have to vote for your person. Me, Lastrom has to go and vote. Yes. So let's not get into delegation of decision making. That's completely separate. It's literally casting the vote.
Yeah, but the problem is that especially in this crypto space, we have the problem of like weak identities. That it's this concept of, okay, it is difficult for us because of how technology was built to know who's behind that wallet. There are mechanisms right now being developed that are pretty good, like Gitcoin with Gitcoin Passport, Quark ID, and other decentralized services that are trying to solve that problem because it is a problem. It's not something that we only suffer. Maybe we suffer it more because we have a pretty big treasury, we have a pretty big community grants program, and our governance design is like super basic 2017 fashion of token weighted voting. So I think it is a problem that we have, and it's a problem that others have. But it is also true that since you are making decisions about a project that it's interesting to you because you have some stake into it, like maybe you have lands, maybe you have mana, maybe you have something like that. The initial governance designs of DAOs thought about this idea of, okay, let's do token weighted because the incentives alignment of people who has more is to make better decisions for the project, right? That was the initial idea. I think the entire community discussed this, and there are a lot of papers regarding voters' alignment and sentiment and blah, 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 that challenges that idea. So maybe what we could do is try to run a pilot with either reputation based with the badges or decentralized identities with Bitcoin passport or something like that, and see how the decision making for a specific category of proposals, I don't know, smaller grants or bigger grants or wherever, governance proposals, something like that, behaves and works with a different kind of mechanism. But the reality is that it's always prone to be rigged, and it's also important to take into consideration that at least for some types of decisions, it is still important to take into consideration like the people who hold assets in the project, right? And delegation as a mechanism, like as a pretty industry standard mechanism for making decisions, it's important because you need to attract the circulating voting power, the available voting power that it's in your ecosystem, wherever it's governance tokens or utility tokens or things like that, into the DAO, because if not, your DAO is weak. Your DAO is prone to a 51% attack, right? So if the voting power is not actually being used, you never know if there's a malicious actor out there trying to outweigh decisions of the community. That's why delegation is a pretty cool feature if implemented, feature or whatever mechanism if implemented right. Maybe we can try with a subset or a portion of the or a segment of the decision categories and see how it behaves. We have the paradox of changing the rules of the game from within the game, right? And that's where we are now. We know that there are some, I wouldn't say bad actors. There are some bad actors or disaligned actors that have a lot of voting power. And there are a lot of good actors that don't care shit about the DAO. And they, I don't know, do weird things like delegating voting power to weird profiles or maybe not showing up for important proposals or things like that. And that's something that we cannot change. It is difficult to change that, right? Maybe we can ask for a one-time commitment for certain things, but we need to find a way to progressively change things until we get the real support, the VP support.
Thanks, Gino. Well, for sure, that's a thing. If we want to reform everything, if we want to build a new system or a complementary system, we need whale support. And for example, last time you say that there are whales that will vote for change. And that's interesting because the times that we promoted change, whales didn't vote, didn't support our proposals. So maybe it's about trying to find, again, something that is attractive for the whales, as someone mentioned in one of the cards. But the thing is, again, we should at least try testing stuff, such as Gino mentioned, I don't know, for governance proposals or maybe something smaller, right, to start with. Linked wearables or points of interest, you should have, I don't know, a legislator badge or a, I don't know, registered studio badge or a landowner badge, I don't know. But those badges could help to start at least identifying contributors or just identifying people that own different assets to start voting on different types of proposals. Because if we go full on the one person, one vote thing, that will obviously present complications at the time of having civil attacks or not knowing who the voter is. So badges could come to help with that.
Just quickly, I was going to say, I don't think they show up because they don't pay attention. They don't care in that terms, right? This is all political. They have their own projects. I can name two people right now that would do it. I mean, one of them, Maddie from Medikey, he has a lot of influence and also VP himself, but he's not here at all. And he's a very, whatever you think about his projects, very rational guy, very chill guy. And he was early on in DCL. So, getting him to the table, I think is hard because the table is a big mess and there's not a lot of like clear cut solutions. So I think these whales who would be in favor of a quadratic voting system, a reputation system, I don't think some of them want to get involved right now. They want to see a fully vetted solution before they say, you know what, take my 12 million VP and yes, I would support that. So I think what we're doing is a great opportunity to get something on the table and then bring these people on board. I know Carl Farvel, he's a very smart individual technically as well. People might dislike him, but he would definitely like to review something like this. He runs Etheria. He runs Decentraland Education, Decentraland University, 3 different districts. You don't think he would like to possibly see something change? James from Vegas City, he never votes on purpose, but for a monumental change for the betterment of the platform, James is a great guy. He would vote as well.
Well, excellent. That's great. It's good to know that there are 2 district whales or contributors that could help with this. But as you mentioned, right, we need a concrete proposal, a concrete policy that could, for them to support, right? So let's continue with the discussions, not to focus 100% of the people that will help to approve these potential reforms. But about the policy, right? So 1 vote, 1 person, 1 person, 1 vote is a possibility that we could start analyzing. I believe that budgets could help to separate those individuals to start voting on different types of proposal, and that we could start with a pilot test, not in a long time from now, to try that out. So that's something that we will definitely work about. And let's move with another one of the solutions proposed here, such as quadratic delegation. I don't know what it is, probably you, Gino. Don't know if you want to say something.
Yeah, instead of saying, I will just share a document that I wrote so you can take a look at it. It's quadratic.
Yeah, I think that document is also in the working papers and the materials from the working group, but please share it again just in case.
Yes.
Because it was a really good document to know what is quadratic delegation about.
Yeah, the cool thing about this is that since I wrote this back in, I don't know, I think November 2022 or something, there is one DAO who implemented a mechanism similar to this. I think it solves a pretty good, the percentage of holders and that changed a lot recently, so I should make an update of this. But this idea of proposing like a VP matching pool, like as a matching funding pool for quadratic funding, if you are not used to quadratic funding, keep going. There are a lot of like documents there explaining the concept, like rewarding VP holders like mana holders. Let's start with mana because it's the easiest one because it's a standard like ERC20 token. Incentivizing mana holders to put their mana into a pool run by an EO. Now that we probably going to have some kind of financial committee in the future, this would be way easier and safer. And distribute the voting power from that pool in a quadratic fashion to delegates, like to recognize delegates. I think this could be a good idea. Of course, if we change the VP sources, this doesn't work or we have to rework it. But by doing this, we will, for example, erase the issue that we're having with essay on delegations, right? Because he would just put like his mana tokens into a pool, get a reward from it, get some kind of yield from it. And the community, based on how many people, not how many VP points, like how many people delegate VP to someone would get part of that VP matching pool distributed in a quadratic fashion to recognize delegates. I think this could be a nice one to try. And it also could be really nice because it would be an experiment that the decentralized DAO could run. I think it would put us in a nice place regarding governance design. I don't know. The biggest problem, of course, is civil attacks. From the moment I wrote this until now, the mechanisms that we were talking before improved quite a lot. So maybe it's a bit easier to do that. But yeah, I mean, feel free to leave comments or wherever there.
For this, Gino, one question, like the delegation gets updated like from time to time, right? It's not like a one-time thing.
Yeah, it could be. I mean, it could be on a fixed period of time basis, or it could be automatically based on the amount of tokens in the pool and the quadratic formula.
Nice.
Yeah, the problem with that is that it would. The problem with that it would be the gas fees, because for delegating to a wallet you have to pay a transaction. That's the only thing. Maybe if we have delegation in Polygon, that would be way cheaper.
Yep. Okay. Really glad that you brought this here again. This would be, again, a solution to build on top of the existing system of the token-weighted system. So wouldn't mean to nuke everything and start from scratch. So it's very important to acknowledge that, right? That this could be a solution for the current state of BP distribution.
Yes, there's one Fede
yep.
I think it's really interesting that talks about a system where the end of the voting slot remains hidden. It could potentially encourage more participation throughout the voting period and mitigate last-minute vote manipulation. Not sure if that is exactly BP distribution, but sounds interesting.
Yeah, it's not BP distribution, but it's, at the end of the day, is what the outcome. The outcome will be probably different if we adopt a system like this. So it's valid to add this. Don't know who added that. If you want to share something about this Polkadot experience, I'm not 100% familiarized with this, but I know what is this talking about. It's about the candle actions, right? I know who added this. But if any of you wants to go further on this and explain what does it mean, will be great. If not, we can add like an explanation to the summary after this meeting. But will be great to have the person that added this in the stage. Okay, well, I think, again, you're talking here about the candle auctions. We'll research about that. We'll add an explanation to the summary. But yes, this is a really interesting mechanism that wouldn't change BP distribution, but will probably change the outcomes of the votings.
Mm-hmm. I'm seeing the big one, land VP decay, which it's probably linked fast to the proposal of limiting max VP on the single address.
Yeah, that one's mine as well. I think I wrote a proposal on it, but this is something that we already discussed. This is the idea of, okay, if you have lands on your wallet and those lands do not get fresh new content, or they're stale, or they don't get, I don't know, activity, whatever indicator of engagement and value provided to Decentraland as a project, the VP calculation attached to that land starts to decrease progressively. and that's it. You can start with a 2000k VP land, but if that land is a wasteland, in a month it's going to be 1950, and in 6 months it will be 1000, and so on until it worth nothing. But it's super. It's real as well. Like it is difficult, but as I said before, and I said to Killian a few times, the community, not the community, the bad actors are already gaming the system. So let's improve it, even if it's not perfect, right?
Right.
Yeah, this is a really interesting one. That well, I also have like similar thoughts. Actually, well, we work together and discuss about this possibility. The thing here that a lot of community members said is that gave us feedback is that you're touching the assets, right? You're touching the land asset, and those people that bought land or acquire land or whatever acquire that land knowing that that land will be worth 2000 BP. So implementing something like this will like be a problem for them, right? For, let's say, investors. But at the same time, investors and landowners that are currently speculating with the land will be incentivized to create content to populate Genesis City, and could be, again, we will need to define what is to occupy the land, right? But because if it's a 3D sphere in the middle of the parcel, yeah, I mean it's better than nothing, but it's still nothing. It's not content. So for that, we will need to specify what is occupied land and what is unoccupied land. That could be identified through SDK entries, through the builder. I don't know. We could think about it. I think it's a good solution, like tackling the whales angle, right? Because we're not now allocating BP to people, to contributors. We are creating good incentives and bad incentives for landowners to populate Genesis City, to create content, and if they don't, their BP will be reduced. So I believe this is a good approach. Still, will be building on top of the system that we already have, but might be a good time to explore this. Miss, there could be a minimum user play, monthly active user count for parcels of land to qualify for land decay or extra BP as bonus. Well, that's something that we actually talked about. The thing that it's the I agree that, again, a sphere in the middle of a parcel shouldn't be content because that parcel won't get engagement. But at the time of the metrics thing, like measuring the engagement and the active users and everything, it's easily bypassable. We already witnessed in some big scenes that they are full of bots, and I think we all know what are we talking about. But we already witnessed how a lot of scenes are botted and metrics are just messed up. But yeah, definitely, if we will like to implement an active user count or something like that for identifying those lands that are occupied or generating engaging content, we will definitely need better metrics, better analytics, and bot protection. So yeah, you basically nail it. And yeah, it will be great to penalize bot users, but yeah, again, this, for me, it's also a best case scenario will be to measure the engagement of the parcel if we will adopt this point of view. But right now, with the current state of things, that's not possible. So will be like occupied and unoccupied land will be about deployments and not about the activity within the parcels. Okay.
Awesome. I think there's one more on that third column that talks about uh, creating safeguards that prevent power centralization, such as changing the voting process from simple majority, so it's 51%, to a 3/5 majority, 60%, for specific types of proposal and categories. Not sure, Fez, is this something we have explored before?
Actually, this is about thresholds and majorities in the votings. That's also something that doesn't change the voting distribution, but could change the outcomes of the votings. So it might be interesting to review this. Maybe, well, we actually have one case of needed percentages for approvals, and it's basically the code of ethics. So, for example, if you want to modify, if you want to update the code of ethics, you need a 75% of approval of a binding governance proposal, right? So this could be the same for, let's say, other binding governance proposals or grants for, I don't know, more than 100K or whatever. So again, this wouldn't fix VP distribution. Whales will still be whales. Small contributors and people with like small amounts of VP will still be there with small amounts of VP. But this way, the outcomes of the votings could change. So it's something that might be interesting to try out. Any comments on that from community members? It's an interesting approach. Again, wouldn't be nuking the system, wouldn't be changing VP distribution, but could help to change the outcomes of the votings.
Awesome. And then we have some other cards on the far right that are strictly related to grants. What I was sort of thinking is that since we have the grants restructuring working group, those might fit right in that specific working group. I mean, of course, VP distribution affects directly the grants program. We all know that, but just in order to keep conversations separate and, you know, having content for the other working group, I was thinking maybe we can just take those to the conversation we will be having about grants restructuring.
Agreed, 100%.
And yeah, maybe we can just go over some of the concerns that I think that are pretty straightforward that we've been talking about, mostly about whales. But yeah, any thoughts on this particular section, anyone?
So yeah, these are basically the things that we've been talking about. This is something that, well, I will read out loud the first one. This is something that I added about, like, talking again about VP distribution and allocating VP to contributors. And again, this is different from voting through badges and one person, one vote and everything. This will be, let's say, something like the things that Nikki proposed, like allocating VP to wearable collections publishers or to content creators or other types of contributors. I will say, and maybe I'm wrong, that not contributions will be enough to balance the VP with the whales. So if we would like to create other whales or a group of people, of contributors, to balance or to counter the whales, I think it would take like a lot of time for them to gain that VP. So this, for me, with the current system, isn't a solution. Just, I mean, if we allocate 100K VP for each wearable collection, yes, that could someday counter the whales. But I also believe that having that distortion in terms of economics in the system won't be good for the ecosystem. That's my take on this. I don't know if anyone has another comment or thought on this, but yeah. Well, that's another thing, right? You will create perverse incentives, right? People will just create wearables and publish them for getting BP. So BP shouldn't be that higher to create that incentive, but at the same time should be higher enough to create that incentive and to balance BP. That's why, from my point of view, allocating BP to contributors with the system as it is right now wouldn't solve anything, but creating distortions. We already discussed about civil attacks. I saw a comment from Lastrom before about like civil attacks being like in the center of the discussion every single time, and that's true. And that's because, yeah, mechanism for defending DAOs from civil attacks are not as refined as the mechanisms and the social engineering and everything that the bad actors use for approving their grants. Getting funds from the DAO is pretty easy. That's true. If you have a B, if you have some friends, quid pro quo, you can just pass the grants no matter what. Here, well, another one related to that. Trolls and bad actors draining the funds will give. Yeah, they basically drain the DAO and they do not contribute to anything. This is something very interesting. A lot of PP not engaging in the DAO, and this could be that like the quadratic delegation could be a solution for this. Like creating incentives for an active BP and for mana holders to put their BP into a pool for distributing the BP among the community members could be a solution for this. So let's take that into account. A lot of BP not engaging in the DAO could be, I won't say easily solved, but we have a possible solution for that, and that's quadratic delegation.
Yeah, and from the moment we started working in the DAO tooling infrastructure up until now, the amount of circulating voting power grew a lot. Actually, I can make the numbers, I can make the math. I'm looking at the transparency report. But what I was trying to convey is that delegation, well, not solved, but improved the amount of circulating BP in the DAO, which makes the DAO stronger in terms of like governance security. But yeah, attracting people who hold assets into an ecosystem that rewards them, it's usually a good idea. And if the rewards are not in the form of stealing money from the grants program, but like a financial mechanism to get yield from their assets, and by doing that, we empower the community with that circulating BP, that would be ideal.
And talking about pools and talking about land and landowners, there was also a proposal that we presented, Gino. I don't know if you recall that, if you remember. First, your proposal to create a pool of land with the DAO acquired land that the DAO bought a couple of months ago, and matching that pool, like merging that pool with a pool composed by land from landowners. So if we create that incentive for landowners to put their land for creators and contributors or whoever wants to deploy something on Decentraland at their disposition, and if we create that incentives for landowners to populate and to create content in their lands to gain VP or to keep their VP as it is, we have a match, right? We have a proposal for creating those incentives and a way that those landowners could like put their lands for the community to use them. So that's another interesting point. We could work around that and promote those proposals. But first, obviously, we need the support of the big players to see if the BPDK from land could be a thing, right? But it's really interesting because there. Yeah, sorry. Go ahead.
The problem with that is that lands are NFTs, and it is way more difficult to find a financial incentive for like storing NFTs, right? That's one of the issues.
Yeah.
When I think about like a pool of land, the only incentive that I see is, okay, the DAO could rent that land so grantees can do things there, wherever, something like that, something regarding the value of the land. But the hard truth is, do you know how many land rentals happened in the last 30 days?
Nope.
0.
Okay. So this isn't a thing. Okay.
So the last land rental that happened in the Central ecosystem was December 4th, 2023. So,
okay.
And in the history of the rentals protocol, only 182 rentals were made.
Okay.
So that might be an issue. But yeah, we need to find something. Sorry, and regarding the circulating VP, I just made a calculation. When we started back in January 2022, it was around 38 million VP, 38 million circulating VP, and now we have over 95 million circulating VP, which, given the total supply of mana, which I think is 200,000 tokens, it's not a lot. That's just taking into consideration mana, and then you have the voting power associated to the lands. But it grew a lot.
Any other concern that we should discuss? Well, here we have another one from last minute whale voting through concerted attacks. That's a thing that exists, and as I mentioned, this thing could be solved through the Polkadot experience, through the candle auction. But again, if no one wants to join the stage or comment on the chat, we will conduct research about that, and we'll see if that's a potential solution for last minute whale voting to change the outcomes of the proposals. Okay.
Yeah, I think those sections are pretty much done. Have our potential roadblocks as well, but I think we discussed most of those. Gameability being one of those. Not sure why, or
I think it refers to the whales and other bad actors finding a way to bypass the measures. But yeah, most of these cards were discussed during the other conversations. Changing the rules within the game itself. Again, we are talking about building on top of the current system or nuking it, to make it disappear and start from scratch with a different voting system. But yeah, we have that paradox, right? Changing the rules within the game itself, getting the community on board with the changes. We're not talking only, again, we talk a lot about the whales and the whales that could potentially support us. But yeah, we need also the community support on that. So we definitely need to onboard the community. First we need the community support, and then we need to onboard the community with those changes. I'm not seeing that as a roadblock personally, but it's definitely an issue and something that if any of these measures happen, if any of these measures is implemented, will demand a lot of work on our side, on the governance squad, on the grant support squad, and the facilitation squad to onboard and to help the community to get used to the new rules. People voting on wanting decisions made in their own best interest, not the platform. That's basically the definition of bad actors. Unpredictable consequences due to hastily made, poorly thought decisions. Yes, and that's another thing that we already discussed. That probably a lot of governance proposals and grants that are potentially passing or have passed are not in the best interest of the community, or are in for the interest of a group of people. So if there are not well-made policies and if they're not agreed with the community and in the best interest of the community, they could be harmful.
Yeah, and about the driver ones, I think top 3 are related to grants as well, which is of course natural. But the other one regarding decentralization, I think it's pretty good closing Kickstarter. Saying decentralization does not mean everyone has to decide about everything, and I think that's a great phrase, right?
Yeah, I do think I have the same feeling. I have this is a great phrase to start closing, to start wrapping up this meeting. Again, decentralization does not mean everyone has to decide about everything. I didn't add this. I don't know who added this, but it's a great phrase. And all the procedures, all the mechanisms, and everything that we are shaping right now, that we are starting, that we're going to present as eventual proposals, could be somehow considered centralized by some people, such as the gatekeeping or the qualified voting with badges or other reputation things associated to birth profiles. But on the way of trying to find a solution, let's try to think in terms of the outcomes of this. Let's try to think how to actually make a more fair system for everyone with the grants, with the money. That is the thing that's always a problem here. But also for the binding governance proposals that update smart contracts and the binding governance proposals that modify or change the way we organize the DAO. So yeah, let's keep this in mind. But yeah, I think we can start. Yeah, go ahead, Gino.
Because I wrote the one about decentralization, and what I was trying to say is that the beauty of decentralized technologies and the blockchain and whatever is no one but yourself holds the power that you own, right? You can delegate that power, but you can always reclaim it back if you're not, if you don't agree with the decisions being made. And having the power to decide on something does not mean that you have, or do you have the knowledge to decide on something. The wisest thing to do is that if you have the power to decide on something, and maybe you don't have the knowledge, or you're not interested on that topic or wherever, you delegate that responsibility to someone who knows that. And in centralized like mechanisms like a traditional government or a corporation, once you give that power to someone, it's really difficult to reclaim it back. And in this ecosystem, the cool thing is that you can always reclaim it back and change it and delegate it again, and or decide something or do whatever you want. Because what we're talking about here is new ways of making decisions and collaborating with others, and it's hard. It is a hard topic. So that's what I was trying to say, and maybe it would be nice to decide as an action, like an action item here, to not leave this discussion as a nice and civilized and smart discussion about making decisions in a DAO. What are we going to tackle? Are we going to start with the grants program? Are we going to try to go all in and propose a new way of making decisions and see how do we get support out of that? Like, what would be the best approach, or what do we do from here?
Well, I agree 100% with what you just mentioned. We have to decide as a community in a decentralized way which approach will be the best for us. Again, what you just mentioned, and I will mention again, we could build on top of what we have already. We could reboot the whole system and start like shuffling the cards again and like deciding again who's going to have the power to vote. But yes, right now it's kickstarting of these discussions, actually resuming these discussions, and this is for everyone again. This working group has been like reactivated because of obviously the need of the community and the expressing need that some community members have mentioned to us. So the idea, yes, is to keep having these meetings, to build summaries about them, to work on action points, and to actually build policy around this issue. So that, I think, will be pretty much all. We'll be working on the summary during the next few days. We'll be scheduling.
Not wants to speak.
Oh, sorry.
Okay.
Yep, didn't saw that.
Hi, folks. So yeah, I completely agree on badges. Like in my personal opinion, we can start with a test. Yeah, we can combine stake voting with reputation based voting and conduct a test with a certain part of the treasury where certain badge holders will be able to vote on grants. So the action plan will be like to start a poll to conduct such a test with a new way of voting. So it's like one of ideas, and we discussed it with Fede and community members some time ago. One thing I think we should be careful with like implementing like quick decisions, and we should sort out all the outcomes, not to hurt any stakeholders. Yeah, just wanted to say about that. Thank you.
Thanks for like 100%. These sessions are open, so if you want to, well, we all should invite people that will be interested in this, such as, again, contributors, landowners, other assets holders, because it's important to have their inputs here. It's not about like destroying everything, or maybe yes, but we definitely need input from the different actors and the different people that part of this community. So, any other comment? Yep.
My stake on that, or my stance on that, sorry, is that right now we are bleeding through the grants program, and pausing the grants just made the wound bigger, at least from my point of view. So if we solve, or if we get the support to modify the grants program, the DAO will be less interesting for malicious actors. Maybe once the DAO gets less interesting for malicious actors, we can get the support we need to modify the rules of the game. Like thinking from a more strategic perspective, I would rather try to get the support for that, for changing the grants program. And I know that the grant support squad has been doing a lot of work tracking pros and cons of different mechanisms. I've been doing some research on other grant mechanisms from other DAOs that we could take as a reference. We can build our own wherever. But I think that from a malicious actor standpoint, if we fix the grants program, that will become less interesting. And if we resume the grants program, the community will have the chance to keep building and keep trying to make Decentraland interesting from a content standpoint.
Thanks a lot, Gino. Lastrom is about to ask a question to you. Truthfully, what other bad actor actions would BP are taking in the DAO outside of the grant system?
What other bad actor actions with VP are taking in the DAO outside of the grant system? I think that right now is the grants. That's why I'm saying let's fix the grants. I mean, last minute voting on a governance proposal maybe, but it's basically getting money out of the grants program. We saw what happened a few months ago.
Yeah.
Fixing grants doesn't fix the bad actor problems, right? It makes the DAO less interesting for bad actors, at least from my point of view.
Yeah, I agree also on that. The thing is that, again, if you want to promote changes, if you want to implement changes, we need to pass those proposals. And we experienced in the past that when we proposed changes with the BP distribution and the system, the whole system, we didn't get enough support. So, and bad actors, quotation marks, voted against it. So yeah, the grants program, for me, it's also the main problem here. eBay just shared the link to the other working group to focus discussions on the grants program. But again, they are all related, both BP, distribution, grants program, and everything. So Lastrom, I'll invite you to speak. If you're talking, we can, well, at least I can hear you.
You're on mute, I believe, Lastrom.
And I'm muted. Sorry, I clicked unmute. Yeah, this may come across easier on voice. So I guess, okay, we fixed the grant system, and then that supposedly fixes the bad actors. But then does that allow bad actors to go to other parts of our DAO? I guess what I'm saying is we're trying to fix a smaller problem with a Band-Aid versus like taking a look at our whole DAO and redoing or changing the entire process across all aspects of the DAO, not just for the grant.
Yeah, what I think is that the grants restructuring is something that we could achieve in the short term, because we can like take the opportunity of the grants freeze to work on that, and that the whole revamp, the whole reboot of the DAO could happen with more time, taking into account more points of view and everything. But I do think that it's not only a band-aid for the DAO, but a starting point for fixing the DAO, the grants program. And again, it's something feasible in the short term, having the right support, having the support from the right people. And then after that, probably we'll have the time to fix the whole DAO. But I agree 100% with you, Lastrom. We should fix the DAO as a whole. The thing is that I personally believe we should start fixing the grants program first, as a first step, not like leaving everything after that is fixed, but as a starting point. That's my take on that.
Yeah, I guess my point is, if we fix the grants, why couldn't we apply those fixes to the whole DAO or whatever's left to it? You know, like So we're going to fix the grants, and then are we going to take a look at the DAO and have to do something different to fix the rest of the DAO, and how will that impact the fix for the grant? Does that conceptually make sense? Like, we're not attacking the whole problem. We're just, okay, we're going to fix this little thing here, and then we'll take a bigger approach, and then we might have to go back and revamp everything we do. Is there a possibility for that?
Totally. It's actually something that we've been talking about, like taking like everything and rebooting everything, or starting with the grants program. And I personally believe that starting with the grants program, fixing this small thing that is not small, but it's like a part of the DAO, will help a lot. But at the same time, I do believe we need like to fix everything. So fixing everything at the same time could be it could be an opportunity to fix everything at the same time.
It's a matter of coordination of forces. Like, there are a lot of whales that are not bad actors, and they're not interested in the grants program. I mean, they don't see the grants program as a way to get funds, because they have their own funds. Like, Esteban does not want to get money from the grants program, right? For example, it's just an example. So it is easier to align those actors in a restructuring of the grants program, and therefore making the DAO less interesting for the bad actors who are whales, and also use the DAO to get funds for things. And after that happens, we can start getting the support to make more substantial changes to the governance design. And from my point of view, and from my feeling, once we get to that point, it's not going to be that easy to get support from whales, because the reality is that there is a treasury with a couple $100 million or dozens of $1 million out there that have a servicing contract of 10 years, and we don't know what's going to happen with that. So we want to retain power. We want to retain decision-making over the decentral DAO. So I think it's going to be easier to restructure the grants program than to make a restart of the DAO. But if we can at least put away some particular actors in the ecosystem, we have a higher chance of success by doing the latter.
just sorry, I was chatting with Lastrom. Yeah, it is a centralized solution. If you want to put it in that terms, yes, it is. It's as I define it, as I like to say, is surgical centralization. It is centralization.
The community can choose. I mean, the community can choose that committee.
Exactly. That was I was going to say. The process could be decentralized for electing, such as we have right now, a DAO committee, a revocations committee, and everything. Community could choose the people that.
Different than delegation. Okay, I choose Gino to be on this committee, and I say, Gino, we're gonna do a grant for $200K. You want $10K?
But yeah, I mean that's
okay,
that's a possibility. But but if we make it doesn't change. But if the mechanism of that committee is open and transparent, and they have to comply to certain rules, it is way more difficult. If your grant is shitty and I have to justify my vote for your grant, and I have to do it, in a public way with a snapshot voting and with a post on the forum, a community call, wherever, it is more difficult than just voting with a random wallet with 4 million VP and just leaving.
So then how do we get you off the committee? I voted you on and I said, hey, we're going to get a grant for $200K. I'll give you $10K. And then people see you continually voting on my shitty grants to select them. How do we get you off the committee? Because it's the same thing as delegation, right? Like there's no way to stop people from like receiving delegated votes or shitty grants to pass through. We're just passing the assumption to an actual individual.
Yeah, an actual individual or a committee of individuals. if we make the bribing more expensive than the amount of money that you can get from the DAO,
I'm not going to vote you off. I have 200 million VP. I'm not going to vote you off. I'm just saying it's an interesting conundrum to try to centralize the decision making of choosing grants, because that in and of itself would be flawed by based on who's on the committee, how you remove them from the committee.
We can think of alternatives. So, for example, what if I know that Maker, for example, MakerDAO, they have a mechanism called ecosystem actors. Ecosystem actors are third-party companies providing services to the DAO. And they have a role in the DAO called something like domain representative.
Yeah, council members. Yeah. I know what you're talking about.
Council members or something like that. And they are not doxed. And at the moment they get doxed, they are automatically removed from that role. So you don't know who is deciding, like who is the actual person deciding on things, but you know how they decided, and they have to be public on why they decided what they decided. And you're right. At the end, we always get to the core of the governance design. That is true. I'm not saying that we don't have to fix the core governance design. What I'm just saying is maybe if we start with something, we can then have a higher chance to change that. But it's just like an opinion. Maybe we have to go all in French Revolution or Soviet Revolution, wherever you want it, and try to blow things off. I don't know. I don't have that amount of voting power to do things, so I'm just saying
if we don't fix the VP system, whatever solution we come up with will just continually be attacked. So.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, this lasted for an hour and a half. I would like to continue this. It's getting late. Again, we can arrange something for next week or the week after. I think next week we will have a meeting about grants specifically. But yeah, let's continue with these discussions. We will work on summary with the insights and everything that came out during this meeting. Just to wrap up things, want to thank everyone for joining this meeting, for participating. It's very important, all of you and me included, and Gino and Ibe and Lorelai, to invite other people to participate in these discussions, because 11 people, it's a good audience, but it's not enough to like restructure the core governance system of the DAO. So yes, that will be pretty much all. We'll keep you posted and we'll share the summary in a few days. Thanks a lot.
Thanks, everyone. Have a good one.
Thanks.